Marianne Williamson is on the Dave Rubin show. If I'm honest, I don't quite exactly know when this took place, but I believe it took place recently, within the last few days. And Dave Rubin peddles this nonsense on immigration. And Oprah Winfrey's spiritual guru, who on the debate stage said she was going to beat Donald Trump with the power of love, did not hesitate to putting one Dave Rubin down on what was outright nonsense. Welcome to the Soapbox. My name is Jamarl Thomas. This is the Progressive Soapbox. Guys, if you enjoy this content, you find yourself coming back to this channel often, please consider supporting this content through PayPal, Patreon, liking, sharing, all the good stuff. I think we're at 23,000 and some change, trying to push it to 24,000 or trying to push to 50,000, 100,000, taking over the world. But either way, they demonetize the videos all the time, and at this point, Pacman has been able to show that they've been funneling content or people away from independent media. So we like to say even a dollar helps. Now, that's it. Let's get to the news. And this is less news and more, I guess, entertainment news per se, so I'm not going to spend a huge amount of time on this. I just thought it was funny when I saw it. Spiritual leader, Oprah Winfrey's spiritual guru. I initially wanted to say witch doctor, but I didn't think that was fair. So I'm going to go with spiritual guru, who's in the political race, who says she was going to beat Donald Trump with the power of love, ripping the sword out of her chest to do so, is on one Dave Rubin show. Now, Dave Rubin apparently at some point used to be a lefty and then was given a lot of money and it became somewhat more ambiguous in being a right-winger. And so she's on the show. And he, tells her that he's a liberal and all this other stuff, whatever. There's several clips on this that are absolutely hilarious and awesome. And I gotta be honest, I like Marianne Williamson, so I have no issue with Marianne Williamson at all. And seeing her put down Rubin on this nonsense stuff that these guys are peddling on immigration is satisfying to watch. Which is why I'm bringing it to you. So this is, I'm putting the link below. It's on Twitter. It's just a clip of it. It's not a long thing of it. But let's watch.
A couple more quick. We'll try to do them quick. It seems like everyone's kind of veering to some version of open borders. That's somehow something kind of.
No, you
so
say
tell
you're
me.
A Democrat. Where do you get this?
Well, I don't consider.
You say I'm a Democrat.
Give me 1 second, guys. There, that's better. All right, let's try this one more time.
Okay, a couple more quick. We'll try to do them quick. It seems like everyone's kind of veering to some version of open borders. That's somehow something kind of.
No,
so
you say
tell
you're a
me.
Democrat. Where do you get this?
Well, I don't consider.
You say I'm a Democrat.
No, I don't consider myself a Democrat anymore. I don't consider myself a Republican, but I'm definitely not a Democrat.
I have not heard one candidate.
Well, they won't say it, but the policies seem to be.
Oh, you don't say it, but you really. I mean, is that healthy, honorable debate?
She says, is that a healthy and an honorable debate? I love that, I love that, I love that. It assumes that politics is honorable. It is not, I assure you. And if you look at it through the lens of honorable or not, you are going to be completely and entirely, disheveled, horrible mess of a person who's eventually going to jump off a bridge. None of it's going to make sense. Honorableness has nothing to do with this process. This power of love. I love it. I love it. But that's her perspective. And she's like, is this an honorable debate? Here's the catch. People, oftentimes in politics, say one thing, meaning take a political position, but have other positions in mind. So what Rubin's saying is not necessarily utterly insane from the standpoint of people harboring one position and taking another perspective. The problem here is that it doesn't necessarily line up with the reality of things. That's the issue with it, not so much that people may harbor a different thing. I mean, Corbyn goes to the Tony Benn school, which is pro-Brexit, and yet he's shucking jives as if he's slightly Remain and so forth, and as if he's somewhat ambiguous on that front. He campaigned as a Remainer, even though in his heart of hearts, if he got to him 2 a.m. between him and his God, he would probably want to leave the European Union. What he wants to do in the European Union, meaning for Britain, can't be done under the guise of being within the context of the European Union, meaning he wants to get out. But he campaigned as a Remainer. Why? You can take a political disposition based on the pressures associated with being in politics, and yet harbor a different disposition in and of itself. You wake up in the morning, you feel a particular way, but your constituency and the people in your particular district, maybe even the people in your party, don't buy into that particular philosophy, in which case you may waffle on your position. That part's not insane. I guess I just want to make that clear. The part that's nonsense and absurd here is that Democrats want open borders. You may get a few. AOC may say she wants open borders. Julian Castro, he might want open borders. But Obama deported 3 million people outside of the country. A guy who's deporting 3 million people don't want open borders. I guarantee you, Joe Biden does not want open borders. You can go down the list of what's considered to be the Democratic establishment, and they do not want open borders. Do you realize the plan that Obama was running with and that Clinton was running with is that if we make it so onerous here, that they'd leave and they wouldn't come here? Because the issue was we don't want people coming to the border this way. So as a Democrat, how do we make it onerous? Well, you impound a lot of people. You deport a lot of people. You make it as if the conditions itself at the border are just as bad as in your own home country. Now, you can see why this is nonsense, because under normal circumstances, the condition at the border is not going to be worse than some kind of gang territory that these people might be running from. And not all of them are running from the gang territory. So let's be clear. All of them are running for better economic opportunities. That part is true. But that's not always true that, it's horrible territory. My point is this. If you're going through and you're looking at the Democrats who are in this race, especially the ones that are more corporate, there are really only 2 or 3 that are non-corporate. And even the ones that are lefties, like Sanders or Tulsi, are not for open borders. In fact, Sanders can't be for open borders because he has this issue of trying to provide health care. And if you have a situation where any and everybody from South America can come for health care, you run into certain issues with trying to provide health care for the people within the country itself. But my point is this. Democrats are not for open borders. They are not necessarily for having horrendous conditions at the border. Don't misunderstand me. And their constituency pushes them to ensure that there is a path to immigration and so forth. And they may even use that as a political gimmick of sorts. But this notion that Democrats are for open borders is nonsense. I'm not saying this as a rah-rah for Democrats. I'm saying this more so just as kind of an objective reality type thing. Again, you can point out 2 or 3. Saying that Donald Trump should hire more judges at the border. That Donald Trump should have a pathway to immigration. And even going so far as to saying, from a political standpoint, of being able to just hit Trump on this particular issue. None of that equals up to open borders. None of that equals even to a momentum to open borders. That's why this is such an absurd premise that he's going with. And maybe this is one of those things that they talk about in right-wing circles. But I'm a lefty and I'm not for open borders. And there may be, some of us are, there may be some strong, hard, socialists that have this notion of a socialist utopia in which, get rid of the borders and all this other stuff. We don't live there yet. When we live there, fair enough. But that's not where we are. My point is, what Rubin is saying here is nonsense. And I love the fact that Marianne Williamson, despite, being endowed with the power of love, has no issue calling him on it. I love this video.
Okay, a couple more quick. We'll try to do them quick. It seems like everyone's kind of veering to some version of open borders. That's somehow something kind of.
No,
so tell me.
Where do you get this?
Well, I don't consider.
You say I'm a Democrat.
No, I don't consider myself a Democrat anymore. I don't consider myself a Republican, but I'm definitely not a Democrat.
I have not heard one candidate.
Well, they won't say it, but the policies seem.
So, you don't say it, but you really. I mean, is that healthy, honorable debate?
The wild part about that, and maybe that's one of the benefits of doing this with the power of love. I'm a cynical SOB, and so I kind of just assume ulterior motives when you're dealing with political actors. And her point is, that's not honorable debate. That's true. That's not honorable debate, but that it's also kind of weird to assume that people wouldn't take political dispositions for positions that they have that are just onerous. So, there's that. And so I'm not hitting Rubin on that point. It's more so on the other point. I think the other point is ludicrous. But her point on, that's not an honorable debate. And this is why Marianne Williamson is not going to be in a third debate. Because you're in politics and you're pretending as if politics... Look, I'm going to tell you something that flies in the face of the way media and everything else talks about stuff, but it's absolutely and entirely true. People are driven by their environment, not the other way around. It's not the person and then the environment. It's the environment shapes the individual. You can go all the way back from the beginning of time. At some point, there may be a back and forth, but it starts off as an environment shaping the individuals. Meaning, the people who are in a political space are shaped by the fact that they're in a political space, and the rule set to which they use in engagement is understood by those actors. Marianne Williamson saying that's not honorable debate comes across as sounding weird because, again, this is not a spiritual domain. Guys, that's my only point. And trying to shape this into a spiritual domain as one individual is not necessarily going to do what you think it's going to do. People have to, at the very least, have to have an understanding of the rule set to which you're working with. You have to meet people at their own level before you can kind of move people to that other state. I guess, I like Marianne Williamson. Fair enough. But there are a lot of non-honorable people in politics. I don't know if you've known that. So, fair enough on that. But good job on trolling the hell out of Dave Rubin. Good job on that front. Good job on that front. I'm not a big fan of Dave Rubin, so seeing him have a bad day is the funniest shit in the world to me. And maybe that's not a bad day per se, but at various points in his interview, she shoots him down. This is just one. At various points in his interview, there are like several of these videos where she is literally owning him, where he is putting out some kind of right-wing stuff and she's just trashing him. And again, this is, spiritual guru. This is a spiritual guru. You can't even stand up to her. I'll leave it here. If you guys enjoy the content, please feel free to share, like the video, subscribe. You can always support through PayPal or Patreon. I have an interview coming up with Kelly. Kelly was at the Left Forum, and I want to talk to her about a debate that she was having with Itzhakov. And I think it's going to be extremely interesting. This takes place at 7 p.m. I'm going to have one other video between here and now, though. A Sanders, representative for Sanders goes on CNN, and CNN is trying to peddle something that is utter nonsense, and she gets crushed. Utterly crushed. Thanks all. I'll see you momentarily.